Welcome back. You're watching HFO-TV. HFO-TV is co-sponsored by J.R. Johnson LLC, specialists in multifamily restoration and repair work. Gantry Incorporated, the nation's largest independent mortgage banking firm. Butler Exchange Group, offering 1031 tax-free exchange services. And Forensic Building Consultants, experts in the diagnosis, repair, and preservation of multifamily assets.
Welcome back to HFO-TV. I'm broker Aaron Kirk Douglas. With me today is Monique Claiborne, President and CEO of Greater Portland, Inc. Welcome, Monique.
Thank you, Aaron, for having me.
It's nice of you to join me today. Can you tell us a little bit about Greater Portland and your role in the organization?
Yeah, so I've been at Greater Portland for about 1.5 years now. Greater Portland is unique in it's the only public-private partnership in the region responsible for attracting traded sector jobs to the region. We do two things. We attract, retain, expand traded sector jobs, but we're also responsible for implementing the regional strategy.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, some people might get confused between Greater Portland, Inc. and the Columbia River Economic Development Council and Prosper Portland. And
Business Oregon and OBC and OBI and all the alphabet soup, yes.
Can you talk a little bit about how you're different from those organizations?
Right. We're different, but we're also very similar to other metropolitans, where you have an economic development organization. Sometimes it's in the chamber, sometimes it's standalone. And then you have partners in the region, city, county, and even state. And so Greater Portland, Inc. being unique in that we straddle Southwest Washington. The CRDC that you mentioned, they do what we do, public-private in nature, but just in Southwest Washington. Whereas Greater Portland, we are responsible for the city of Portland, 5 counties in Oregon, as well as 2 counties in Southwest Washington. So we work with the CRDC. Prosper Portland is just the city of Portland. And so, as I mentioned, we work with companies that are looking to expand their footprint in the region. And for a company coming here, they may not get caught up in jurisdictions. Oh, I have to be in the city of Portland, or I have to be in Vancouver. They say, I just want to come to the Portland MSA, right? And so they'll reach out to us knowing that we represent the city of Portland. We work with Vancouver and the CRDC. We partner with Business Oregon, who's responsible for the entire state. Yeah.
And 5 years ago or so, you moved here from Detroit, and you've talked a little bit about how your experience there is applicable. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, so yeah, I've lived here for 5 years, and I think Portland has changed a lot just in the 5 years, right? We know that pre-COVID, post-demonstrations. But I was doing this work in Detroit over 10 years ago, and at the time in Detroit, the city was coming out of a bankruptcy, largest municipal bankruptcy in the country, an auto bailout, a lot of negative press, and we were trying to attract businesses to the Detroit region. And it was difficult. And that's where I see a parallel with Greater Portland right now, where there's some negative press, not as much as 2 years ago. But how do we attract businesses to the region where the climate may not seem conducive to friendly business, right. In the region?
All right. So what are the challenges that Portland is facing in bringing those visitors and job seekers back to the city?
I actually think the challenges they're perceived challenges. So we just had the World Athletic Championship, right, 2 weeks ago. The first time that it was in the U.S., it was in Eugene. And so Greater Portland, Inc., we hosted apparel and outdoor execs, and we brought in companies from Europe, from China, from Canada, Texas, that's considering expanding its footprint. They loved it here. They loved it. We went wine country, we went down to Eugene, we had them meet with the Blazers, the Timbers, you name it, right, to say, hey, you would be successful here, and like, how do we have candid discussions surrounding that? And one thing I found was so many times our leaders here were saying, oh, things are getting better. Things are getting better. And they had no clue what we were talking about, and by we, the locals, right?
Right.
And so to me, it was a good, it was.
Are they poisoning the well in a way, though, by
that's
by saying something like that?
Right. So then now we have to answer questions, and I think in some ways, like, it's good to be candid, right? Like, let's get it all on the table. We don't want to show all the roses, no pun intended. But I think we think it's worse than what it was. Whereas it's not that hard for a company to consider the region if they see a business opportunity here.
Is the low availability of housing causing an issue with any of these companies that might want to relocate here?
So with the companies that we're currently working with, that has not come up in discussion at all. The companies that we're working with so far, again, in the last year and a half, they're not relocation. So it's not someone from Ohio or someone from Texas saying, oh my gosh, look at the inventory, look at the prices. These are companies that are hiring locals and people that are already here, right? And so that's not really a big factor. And then a number of the jobs that we're working with now, they're very good paying jobs, right? And so I don't think that's as much of a factor for more of the lower skilled positions. But I think what we're seeing is common across the West Coast, right? We're seeing it in San Francisco, we're seeing it in Oakland, we're seeing it in San Jose, San Diego, and the crisis surrounding housing. And I do think that Portland should be prepared for what's to come, if it's any indication as to what we're seeing, in other parts of the West Coast.
How is the rise in remote work factored into the recovery, and would some of those workers be working from from Portland? Would they be working remotely for those other companies?
They are. We're working with a company now, or we just finished the project with a company, and pre-pandemic, they stalled out their commitment or their announcements in terms of when they said, hey, we're coming to Portland. So pre-pandemic, it was Portland. During the pandemic, and then now they've opened those positions to Portland, I think it was Vegas and one other city on the West Coast. And so it was hard to ascertain, like, well, how many jobs can we say we won, right? Like, how many jobs actually came to Portland? And they couldn't give us those numbers either. And so I do think that could be common with companies that see a reason to be here, but open to the idea of their employees being remote. Certainly when we talk to brokers who represent properties downtown, we're hearing constantly that they're reducing their footprint. Some of course are moving outside of the city, but for us, we're
You're less
agnostic.
concerned with that.
Right, yep. But I think it's a factor when you don't see a vibrant downtown, right? And so if not a vibrant downtown, if people are working remote, what does that mean for downtowns, right? I think that should be the evolution of the discussion. How can we create community downtown when historically that was supposed to be a bustling area, right? Monday through Friday, 9 to 5.
Are there any specific projects you're working on right now that you would like to talk about?
Well, the apparel and outdoor companies, right, that I mentioned that came in a few weeks ago, we're looking at a design and innovation center for one of those companies. Another company's looking at expanding into an apparel company is expanding into footwear. Now, is that because
there are already these companies here that are in that industry, and so there's a lot more of that talent here already?
Oh, absolutely. Like, that is probably the meat and potatoes, right, of employers and jobs here in the region. Semiconductors, chips, computers and electronics. Sorry, that's the traded sector for that. Food and beverage, bioscience is an emerging industry. So we have a couple of new projects, again, within apparel and outdoor, but then also we're seeing an interest within computers, electronics, and chips. There are a number of companies in the region as a result of Intel being here that are considering expansion, and hopefully we are primed to win some of those projects.
Well, all good news today.
Yeah.
It's been very nice talking to you. Thank you for spending some of your time with us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm bullish on the region. I think most people are, and certainly outsiders looking in, they are.
That's it for HFO-TV. We'll see you next time.
Our entire office specializes in multifamily real estate, making HFO the largest multifamily brokerage in the Pacific Northwest. Your success is our passion. Build your legacy with HFO. Call 503-241-5541 or visit our website at hfore.com for more information.